President Donald Trump on Tuesday said he agreed to suspend planned attacks on Iranian infrastructure for 2 weeks, backing off his shocking threats to imminently order the destruction of Iran's whole civilization. The move, more than 5 weeks after the US and Israel launched the war, was subject to the Islamic Republic of Iran agreeing to the complete, immediate, and safe opening of the Strait of Hormuz, he wrote on Truth Social. The decision was based on conversations with Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif and Field Marshal Asim Munir of Pakistan, Trump wrote. "This will be a double-sided ceasefire," he declared. Oil prices plunged as much as 16% following the announcement, while US stock futures shot up. Iran Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said in a separate statement that ships will be able to safely pass through the strait for the 2-week interval via coordination with Iran's armed forces and with due consideration of technical limitations. Trump's announcement came less than 2 hours before his deadline on Iran to either make a deal that includes opening the strait, a vital artery for global oil transit, or else face major attacks on its civilian infrastructure. The 8 p.m. Eastern Time deadline, which Trump set Sunday after demanding in a belligerent social media post that Iran open the fucking strait, had caused panic in the US and around the world. Trump escalated matters dramatically on Tuesday morning, writing in another post, "A whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again." Sharif on Tuesday afternoon had asked Trump for a 2-week extension of his deadline for Iran. He also asked Iran's leadership to agree to open up the strait for 2 weeks as a goodwill gesture. "We also urge all warring parties to observe a ceasefire everywhere for 2 weeks to allow diplomacy to achieve conclusive termination of war in the interest of long-term peace and stability in the region," Sharif wrote in an X post. Both the US and Iran framed the development as a win. Trump, in his post announcing the 2-week delay, claimed the US had agreed to halt its planned attacks because "we have already met and exceeded all military objectives and are very far along with a definitive agreement concerning long-term peace with Iran and peace in the Middle East. We received a 10-point proposal from Iran and believe it is a workable basis on which to negotiate," Trump wrote. Almost all of the various points of past contention have been agreed to between the United States and Iran, but a 2-week period will allow the agreement to be finalized and consummated, he wrote. Iran's Mehr news agency later Tuesday posted a statement from the Secretariat of the Islamic Republic's Supreme National Security Council declaring that the US has accepted these principles as the basis for negotiations and has surrendered to the will of the Iranian people. If the surrender of the enemy in the field becomes a decisive political achievement in the negotiations, we will celebrate this great historical victory together. Otherwise, we will fight side by side in the field until all the demands of the Iranian nation are achieved. Read a translation of the statement. Iran will hold negotiations with the US in Islamabad, the capital of Pakistan, for 2 weeks beginning in the coming days, according to the statement. Iran's 10-point proposal includes withdrawing US combat forces from all regional bases, lifting all sanctions, releasing Iranian assets frozen abroad, and full payment of Iran's war-related damages. It would also establish a protocol for controlled passage through the Strait of Hormuz. Trump on Monday said a ceasefire proposal put forward by Iran was not good enough. It was not immediately clear what in the intervening hours led him to accept Iran's proposal as a workable basis for negotiations. Iranian officials have released multiple statements in both Farsi and English following the breakthrough announcement of a 2-week ceasefire with the United States. Here's what they say. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi released a statement on X that declared, "If attacks against Iran are halted, our powerful armed forces will cease their defensive operations." Araghchi said that the country's military will coordinate safe passage through the Strait of Hormuz during the ceasefire. He also said Iran was considering the 15-point proposal of the United States and said that Washington had accepted the general framework of Iran's own 10-point proposal as a basis for negotiations. Iran's Supreme National Security Council, the country's top security body, released a more fiery statement that confirmed the ceasefire but also portrayed the agreement as a victory. "We convey glad tidings to the great nation of Iran that nearly all of the war's objectives have been achieved, and your valiant sons have driven the enemy into a state of historic helplessness and enduring defeat," the statement read. The statement was obtained by CNN from Iranian officials and reported on multiple Iranian state media outlets. The Security Council statement said talks between the US and Iran would take place in Islamabad and laid out key parts of the Tehran's 10-point plan. It included regulating passage through the Strait of Hormuz, terminating attacks on Iran and its regional proxy forces, the withdrawal of US forces from the region, compensation to Iran, the lifting of international sanctions and unfreezing of assets, as well as a binding UN resolution to secure any ultimate peace deal. "Our hands remain upon the trigger, and should the slightest error be committed by the enemy, it shall be met with full force," the Council warned. Versions of the Security Council's statement that were widely distributed by Iranian state media in both Farsi and in English also included that the US has agreed in principle to accept Iran's right to nuclear enrichment. For context, Iran's Supreme National Security Council is the primary body tasked with overseeing Iran's national security interests and protecting its Islamic revolution. It is stacked with senior figures from the country's security, military, and clerical establishment. President Donald Trump tonight derided a statement from Iran's Supreme National Security Council that claimed victory in the ceasefire deal as a fraud, attacking CNN for reporting on it. The statement, which said Iran achieved a great victory and forced the United States to accept its 10-point plan as a basis for negotiations, was obtained by CNN from Iranian officials and reported on multiple Iranian state media outlets. The alleged statement put out by CNN World News is a fraud, as CNN well knows, Trump wrote. The false statement was linked to a fake news site from Nigeria and, of course, immediately picked up by CNN and blared out as a legitimate headline. Iran's Supreme National Security Council is the primary body tasked with overseeing Iran's national security interests and protecting its Islamic revolution. It is stacked with senior figures from the country's security, military, and clerical establishment. Until recently, it was headed by Ali Larijani, a top security official who was assassinated last month by Israel and was a key architect of the country's military and diplomatic strategy since the start of the conflict with the US and Israel. Trump pointed instead to another, shorter statement from Iranian Foreign Minister Sayed Abbas Araghchi, which did not claim victory and confirmed passage through the Strait of Hormuz would be safe for the next 2 weeks. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries on Tuesday night renewed his call for Congress to come back into session and vote to end the war with Iran, telling CNN the 2-week ceasefire deal is insufficient. "We need a permanent end to Donald Trump's reckless war of choice, which is why House Democrats have demanded that Speaker Mike Johnson immediately reconvene the House back into session so we can move a war powers resolution that will end this conflict permanently," Jeffries said on Anderson Cooper 360. Earlier today, ahead of the original 8 p.m. Eastern Time deadline for Iran to make a deal and open the Strait of Hormuz, House Democratic leaders issued a joint statement calling on their Republican colleagues to return to session and vote to end the US war with Iran. Jeffries said tonight that if a vote doesn't happen this week, House Democratic leadership plans to present a war powers resolution as soon as it becomes available to us to do so.